You're one smart leprechaun.
I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I think they switched them out. Hi, all right. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay. Public comments? Nothing? All right, we have some special recognitions tonight, obviously, have a full house here, so we're gonna get started with, the girls' basketball team. This evening, we're recognizing the history-making girls' basketball team. They are they won the ISHAA Class 3A Sectional Championship for the first time since 2000, which was when I was in school. On Saturday, February 8th, 2025, the Lady Red Devils defeated Hanover Central 45-34 in the championship game on their home floor, and it was so exciting. In the semifinal round, they played the night before. They defeated Kankakee Valley by a score of 44-40, and the team accomplished an overall record of 16-10. The team also received individual accolades by having 4 players receive all conference honors. First team all NCC players are Bree Kidd and Alicia Laub. Brooke Dawson and Gatlin Hanrath received NCC honorable mention. Alicia Laub was also named the Lebanon All-Tourney team and received All-State honorable mention. It is with great pride that we recognize the hard work, commitment, and high achievement of the Lady Red Devil basketball team. Board, can I have a motion to present the team a declaration of the board to recognize this great achievement?
I'll make a motion.
And a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, so with the unanimous approval of the board, I'm going to read this declaration of the board. If the girls' team would please rise for this. When I'm finished, I'm going to have you each file up, accept your proclamation, and go ahead and walk down and shake everybody's hands, okay?
Did you tell them about the speeches they have to give?
Yes. Okay, so this is what the declaration looks like that you're going to be receiving. The Tri-Creek School Corporation Board of School Trustees recognizes Lowell High School 2024-25 girls basketball team. Whereas Tri-Creek School Corporation endeavors to be a recognized leader for high achievement and exceptional growth. And whereas the Lowell High School girls basketball team has made history and achieved exceptional results on the court during the 24-25 basketball season. And whereas the Lowell High School 2024-25 girls basketball team includes Layla Barron, Hayden Blocker, Tori Shables, Reagan Claus, Tatum Claus, Brooke Dawson, Ashley Evans, Aubrey Fleming, Abigail Hamilton, Gatlin Hanrath, Bree Kidd, Alicia Laub, Alessandra Labas, Josephine Laub, Olivia Madison, Addison Umfleet, and Courtney Wilczewski. And whereas the Lowell High School 2024-25 girls basketball coaching staff includes Kelly Chavez, Jessica Hayden, Samantha Riley, and Ken Roach. And whereas the Lowell High School girls basketball team is the 2024-25 sectional champions, achieving the first title since 2000. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tri-Creek School Corporation Board of School Trustees hereby congratulates the members of the Lowell High School basketball team for their history-making season and the outstanding accomplishments they have made as student athletes on and off the court. And I ask that the members of the Tri-Creek School Corporation community and residents of the town of Lowell help us in congratulating the successful Lowell High School girls basketball team. Excellent job, good work. Great job.
Congratulations. Great job.
Nice job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You should have abstained from this.
Great work.
Congratulations,
Thank
neighbor.
you.
Excellent job.
Congratulations.
Way to go, Aubrey.
Congratulations.
Nice job, Ashley.
Nice job. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brad.
Good job, Leila.
Congratulations.
Good job. Congratulations.
Good job, Reg.
Nice job out there.
Way to go, Tatum.
Congratulations.
Good job, Reg.
Good job.
Way to go.
Fourth quarter man.
Is this circle keep going around?
Thank you.
Attica off.
Congratulations.
Oh, you can all hug. Aw. Congratulations, we're so proud of you. We also have another exciting athlete to recognize this evening. We would like to recognize the Lowell High School swimmer, Callie Kissel. Callie competed in the ISHAA Swimming State Championship at the IU Natatorium in Indianapolis on Friday, February 14th, 2025, in the 100-meter backstroke. Indiana is a state that's known for its swimming prowess, so it's an amazing accomplishment to make it to the state championships. Additionally, Northwest Indiana is one of the most difficult sectionals to advance through. So what Callie has achieved as a junior is astounding. Callie also broke 2 school records this year in the 50 freestyle and 100 backstroke. Board, I ask again to have a motion to present Callie and her coaches with a declaration of the board to recognize this great achievement.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so Callie, please stand while I read and present you with your commendation. It's gonna be a long one. Declaration, the Tri-Creek School Board of School Trustees recognizes Lowell High School swimmer Callie Kissel, whereas Tri-Creek School Corporation endeavors to be recognized leader for high achievement and exceptional growth. Whereas Lowell High School swimmer Callie Kissel has made history and achieved exceptional results in the pool during the 24-25 season. And whereas the Lowell High School girls 24-25 swimming coaching staff includes Tiana Brees, Jacqueline Skinner, Sue Smetna, and Megan Mitchell. And whereas Callie broke her record twice at conference and again at sectionals. Whereas Callie Kissel earned a place at the IHSAA Swimming and Diving State Competition, where she placed 23rd in the state for the 100-meter backstroke. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tri-Creek School Corporation Board of School Trustees hereby congratulates Callie Kissel for her exceptional season and the outstanding accomplishment she has made as a student athlete, and ask that members of the town and Tri-Creek School Corporation help us in congratulating the accomplishments of Callie.
Great job. What was your 50 free time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Outstanding job. Very proud.
What a silly guy.
Great job.
We are truly so proud of all of you as students and athletes and how you're representing and leading in our schools. And thank you for coming. We have a long board meeting ahead of us. You are welcome to stay with your parents, or if you have other more important things to do tonight, it is okay if you'd like to leave at this time. Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Go straight home now.
Our picture, you know I love the picture.
Serve 2 purposes today.
Brett doesn't trust me to drive. I have my license.
Andy.
Oh, you're driving home?
It's fine.
I thought he was gonna stay for the meeting. Oh, is he?
That's all right. All right, I think we can carry on. All right, superintendent report.
I would like to start off, Mr. Giannotti is here and he's doing some work with the Pride Banquet and we have some guests. We have a donation later on the agenda and I thought we'd take the time right now to front load later on the agenda.
Thank you.
I'm here about the Pride Banquet, which recognizes it used to recognize the top 10% in the graduating class, and now recognizes every student who graduates summa cum laude in the graduating class. Mrs. Doherty, Mrs. Mazurek, Mr. Deal, Mrs. Schoon, and Mrs. Toll and I have been putting the banquet together for a few years now. And it's always been externally funded. We couldn't do it without the help of the community, businesses, and organizations. Dr. Yeoman started this banquet about 35 years ago. Sherry Peters and Margaret Hurt, legendary Lowell High School teachers, were in charge of running it until their retirement about 15 years ago or so, and then Mr. Deal and I took over for them. We have 5 members of the graduating class, summa cum laude, with us tonight, and I'd like to recognize them. Sydney Cantrell is here. Go ahead and stand up. Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin Krilich, Alexis Perlich, Alicia Lobb, again, and Addison Umfleet in the back there. So they are all graduating and benefiting from the Lions Club, very generous donation. We thought that we were going to have to put these student banners on the chopping block this year because we just didn't have the funding for that. But the Lions Club has come through with such a generous donation that we don't have to do that. We can keep that recognition going and hang their banners proudly in the cafeteria as we've done for the past few years. So, girls, you can take a seat. So I want to introduce Mr. Greco and Mr. Goldman, who will now come up and present the check. Thank you.
It's like the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're dating people in the room.
Yeah, sure.
Hold on, we gotta get a photo up, sorry.
Yes, of course.
All right. Go ahead, Mom. Over here, good?
Yeah, you're good. Take a few.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You guys always come through and support for our students, and I really appreciate everything that you do for this town. Thank you so much.
And our board meetings are every second Tuesday of every month. And if you need a donation, please feel free to come and see us. We're always willing to help.
Awesome.
So, and pitch in for the labor parade, because this is how we pay for it.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
Thank you for your generous donation.
Joe's not a part of our family, but he was transportation for our daughter from Indianapolis
Back in
every time
college.
they came home, so.
Back in college.
thank you.
Nice.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Joe.
Thank you. Good.
All right, I wanted to update the board. We have an outside agency that's doing an assessment of all of our bus routes to see if there's opportunity for us to be more efficient, and also to assess if we were to tweak some of our dismissal times, particularly at the intermediate and middle school, if it would make the whole dismissal process and kids boarding the bus on a more timely fashion more efficient. We should have some feedback in the next week or two about possibilities of adjusting some of our dismissal times. And then in April, we'll get an update of if there are opportunities to make improvements in our bus routes. So it's a good outside perspective. The company that does this work for schools sometimes can find you can reduce routes of maybe 1 or 2 routes, which is a cost savings to the district. And when good bus drivers are hard to come by, it helps to, if you've got fewer routes, then it helps your pool be a little bit deeper. So just wanted to update the board.
Have they ever considered like clustering, meaning students walk to a designated spot, more students walk to a designated spot, so there's one stop versus 3 or 4 for that same neighborhood?
Yeah, so they look at sidewalks, the traffic patterns, so they take all of that into consideration.
We used to have to walk. Yeah.
10
Both
miles,
ways
both
uphill.
ways.
Yeah, with no shoes. Legislative update, so I'll kind of tag team with Dana on this. There is a lot happening in Indianapolis right now regarding school funding. And it's specifically with property tax, but it's also with the amount of tuition support to schools. It's changing constantly, and even from yesterday to today, they came out with almost a completely new way to do school funding. Without getting too far in the weeds, Dana, what would you sum it up as at this point?
We're still diving into the proposed legislation that is going to, or that could replace Senate Bill 1 as it's out there now dealing with property tax. But it is looking at a standardized tax rate for the entire state rather than adjusted tax rates by need. So it's looking at setting a cap of $3 maximum for the entire state. And how that gets divvied up and decided upon the entities that make up a taxing district is unsure right now. They're working on, maybe it might be the county or maybe it might be a ratio. So there are different components in there that make it completely different than we've ever seen before, and that came out today. So there's still, or yesterday, and I watched the session this morning. So there's still a lot to look at in there. It deals more with a tax cap basis, which is in Indiana code rather than the levy end of it all, and that's what they're calling that $3, the cap. And just in Lake County alone, you've got tax rates that range up to the $8 range up in northern Lake County, down to the $1.47, I think is the lowest maybe in for all taxing districts in there. We average here in our district anywhere up to a high of just over $3 in Schneider, to, let's see, our low is $1.84, $1.85 in West Creek. So that's how we would compare like that. So a lot to learn from this model. A lot of good questions yesterday.
There is a high probability we are going to take a financial hit. We already know our utility costs are going up. NIPSCO, the rate hike that was originally 25% as advertised last November, we advocated, hey, please don't do that to us. It came back at 17%. And then since then, we've been informed that 2 coal plants have closed, and so as a result of their closing, there probably will be an additional rate hike on our NIPSCO. So that impacts us. Our fuel costs are going up, our insurance costs are going up, so our fixed costs continue to go up at a definite higher percentage and rate than our revenue source. We're watching our enrollment trends. Our kindergarten roundup numbers are down from previous years. Preliminary, if the pencil math is accurate, we could drop in enrollment and under current funding, it could be $200,000 to $240,000 hit.
Mhm.
But what it's hard for people to understand is, in Indiana, the saying is that the money follows the kid, which is true, right? So if they take a voucher and they go to a private school, that is true, the money goes with them. But the school bus that drives down the road, we still have to purchase it, gas it, insurance, and hire a driver for it. So whether that bus is driving half full or totally full, that expense will not change. When we heat this room, whether it's full or not full, it still gets heating and air conditioning and lights. Those are fixed costs. And so it's important for people to understand in Tri-Creek Schools, we just went through a reduction of staff by nearly 30 people in the past 2 years. And we thoroughly went through and found the curricular materials and resources that we identified, you know what, they are nice, but they, at the end of the day, when it comes to fiscal responsibility and running lean, we'll do without those and try to figure out how to make it happen. We're already at that point in our district where we're running lean. Any additional hit is going to be felt pretty significantly. We're hoping for the best, but we're preparing for the worst.
That's the way to do it.
And I told the teachers union yesterday, be prepared, we may need to make some hard decisions in the upcoming weeks with perhaps involuntary transfers where based on total enrollment numbers. So if we need to move teachers from this elementary school to the other one, it's not a matter of not being sensitive to that you've taught in that school for years. It's based on need. At the high school, we run all of our programming based on student course requests. So if we've got leftover, we might have to reroute a teacher from the high school to the middle school. So I just wanted to alert the board, we're already on planning for next year. We can't wait until May after the General Assembly has met to prepare. We're in the middle of master scheduling, staffing, and so just be cognizant of that as this all plays out. The General Assembly is slated to wrap up their work, I believe, around April 29th. And unless the governor were to veto anything and then pull them back into session. So by that time, we'll at least have a framework, and then hopefully then by May, we'll have some hard numbers to work with, and if we need to make any additional decisions, we'll have to do that come May. Oh, that was a lot. And speaking of a lot, we've got a lot of construction going on, and we got Mr. Movcheski in the house. Give us an update.
Superintendent Anderson. Handouts here. You can hand them out to everybody, but I don't think.
I thought you were gonna bring snacks for everybody.
I was waiting for the bowl. It's your turn. All right. Thank you, Superintendent Anderson, members of the board. Appreciate you letting me update everyone. It's going to be very brief, number 11. Just because we're in that foundation stage, concrete's curing, some masonry walls are going up, so we'll get into some of the details here. Only going to be updating the North Star and the new natatorium. All right.
Having a little bit of technical difficulty.
No biggie. No biggie. First will be the North Star building here. Thanks for helping me out now. I had issues earlier.
No good deed, Chris.
Yeah, it goes unpunished. I get it. So I can get into the quick narrative while Jay's trying to call it up here. So upcoming work for the North Star and a little bit of the community building here on the southwest corner of the complex. Finish baseball and softball bleachers and have them inspected. Continue sheet metal and downspouts at the North Star and have all the roofing completed. Get that wrapped up. Roller shades, privacy curtains, and finally furniture over at the North Star and community building. So we will get that over to you folks for a big meeting next week, right, Dan?
Yes, next Friday.
So what I do have to show is just some interior details, and the view from inside the North Star looking south is pretty breathtaking. So we'll hopefully display that here pretty soon. The natatorium, as I mentioned, just concrete foundations, some more excavations. Masonry walls are going up. Our main goal is to get that chiller pad up and running for the start of the school year, get cooling into the space. So that is procuring fairly well, and we're gonna hit some milestones. And very important, what people don't see are just the underground utilities that are going in, and it's miles and miles of plumbing, sewer, electrical, things of that nature. So with that, I wanna open up to any questions or comments. Again, like I said, very brief. Much more to come once we start swinging steel in.
This nice weather is certainly helping with the exterior work, I'm sure.
It is. We had a little bit of setback a few weeks ago with all the rain, but
Yeah.
glad to report no washouts on the turf. So all the surrounding, sport complexes are good. I do have in there, I wanted to showcase, I try to bring a piece of the puzzle to every board meeting. We were showing off the football field, they're pretty heavy, baseball field, but girls softball. So hopefully we could have the same thing with basketball, some presentations next year. It's looking really good. That turf is amazing.
I have something about girls softball too. I was recently out in town, and the person I was talking to, their daughter is a freshman and wasn't sure if she was gonna try out for softball or not. It's, you know, what do I do? She decided to go out for softball and she said, the fields,
Yeah.
we have real dugouts, this is so cool. And the parent was telling me, she's like, it was the facility that kind of drew her into
great.
wanting to come out for the team at Lowell. And it's getting a lot of attention from the students in that way, which is exactly what we were hoping for, that pride and excitement. So
You know, to us, we love it, you know, we're normally seeing the grain football. But when you see this field and the granulars in there, it gives you the real feel of like how we grew up. So I challenge the board members to go walk it, if you haven't walked on artificial turf field, it's very cool.
I know there's a lot of positive comments from the surrounding communities. I get out, and last night I was in Crown Point, and a lot of people come up to me saying how beautiful it looks.
Yeah.
Even in its, you know, it's not finished yet.
Well, Dana's hosting a meeting next week to rub their noses in it.
But be nice to
I sent an invite to the board, so next Friday on the 21st, 8:30 in the morning is breakfast, 9 o'clock meeting starts. IASBO Region 1, we are hosting Denny Costerison and Dr. Scott Bowling. They will be giving a legislative update, of course, focused on schools. And you're more than welcome to join us for that day up in the North Star, up on the second floor for the first event.
that's gonna be so nice.
I thought you were joking about the breakfast.
Oh, no, I think we've got, Chartwell's is hosting the breakfast.
I love that. So it's a
You
good-
know, what's really cool, and all the dugouts are, they're all recessed, so you get the true feeling of, you know, like a very unique sport complex, grandstands, I mean, it's, with the masonry, it's coming together really nice.
It's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
Highly, you can stand up there on the fence and
Yes.
you're almost field level with it.
Right.
Something I've noticed when I've been here for events in our parking lot on the north side, we have people coming out the inn still. Or when is that the road gonna start getting the markings on it?
Like when you say north,
Like in the
Razor, northwest, or northeast?
no,
Like the old-
the main entrance
Yeah.
where you would park if you go to a basketball game.
April 15th, 20th-ish.
So we're gonna
We
get some
need it to heat up,
distinctive markings there so
Yes.
people know this is an in, not an out.
yes.
There's
That-
another thing, another thing I've noticed too about when we get a lot of rain, it seems like there's quite a few standing water spots in the parking lot.
Right, there is, and we do have some corrective measures for that we're working with the superintendent on. Again, we need temperatures to clear up.
Yep.
Binder, you can do 30+ degrees. Surface, you need in the 60s.
Is that gonna be about the same then for tennis? Cause I know the tennis courts still need their markings, right?
Yes, we're pushing for that pretty good.
I think
Season
they're
starting.
chalking tennis for maybe some practices, but tennis will not be able to start their season on the courts.
Right.
Jason came in my office yesterday about the parking lot markings, just to double check, so he said mid-April.
If you're here at 3 o'clock.
So do you have details about the gas main issue?
Do I?
The gas main?
Yeah,
What was the root cause of why that happened?
just excavator error.
They didn't call locate,
No, we had locates.
the locates weren't correct,
The locates were off a few feet.
a few feet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because with that clay, when they're locating, they have, you know.
They're running a current and then
Yeah,
they're protecting
and-
the current. Yeah.
And the way that line was put in many moons ago, it wasn't open trenched, it was directional bored. And when it's directional bored, the line just finds its way because it's being pushed versus placed.
Sure.
So, it was honestly just operator error, because at one location, the line was ripping through, while we're moving it, a pier pad, a concrete pier pad. So it's exposed, you can see A to B, but in that area, it was off a few feet.
How deep
So
down
what's
was it?
your corrective action plan then to prevent it? Cause you guys hit a underground electric line too, didn't you? I think that was mentioned on one of the meetings.
Maybe last fall.
Hitting an underground feed that was
Could be.
going past the pool there, so that was 2 underground hits.
So the correct,
They're dangerous,
Yeah.
you know, not maybe not for the school, but definitely for the workers.
it's dangerous for the school, it's dangerous for everybody. I mean, you have human error, but the correction plan is, you know, NIPSCO's called, 911's called,
I mean, like to prevent it from happening again.
So what we've done, we've taken some measures where we're excavating after hours or later in the day. Heavy probing now versus just open cut excavating.
How deep was it in the ground?
24 to 30 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, so they kept probing, excavating, and it just.
Mr. Lau, because that was such a huge disruption to the school day, obviously, safety concerns, number one, and then disruption. We did have a follow-up meeting, and as a precautionary measure, as indicated, if there's a main line like that that needs to have work around it done in the future, it would be done after the school day.
Yeah, I mean, like as far as like a corrective action, I'm not sure if like just reducing the potential risk to people is necessarily like a solution. It's more just like, well, we're just gonna keep hitting things, we just don't want people to die, as many people to die, it's kind of like, that's not like a corrective action would be like, we're gonna do this so that we don't hit anything underground anymore.
Right.
We're not, whatever procedure or process we're using isn't working, so we have to change what we're doing, because if you get like 2 hits underground on the same job,
Totally.
it doesn't look good,
And I don't believe it was
I
the
think the
same
contractors
contractor.
are cognizant of that. I advocated for the school piece of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying like, as far as like, it wasn't really from like a student safety standpoint, it's just,
Like,
it's,
Doesn't need to happen, right?
yeah, it was just a little bit like, that's what I was saying, like, maybe the practices, or is it because of the time pressure, or, ultimately like to say like, well, yeah, it zigzags, but that's not really like a root cause. A root cause would be like, not proper training, not following company procedures,
Yeah, we've
operator error,
had the contractors increase their toolbox talks and safety talks in weekly meetings, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it was an
It's not
accident.
just the students, I'm worried about those guys too.
Well, we are too.
If they're doing something for us, we don't want it marred by some tragedy,
Right.
We are too. I mean, we're ahead of it all, so, safety's our number one concern. That's the foreman meetings Monday, toolbox talk Friday, contractors toolbox talk daily. So when it's a true accident, it's an accident.
I'm a contractor too. I
You
know the
understand
game,
it happens.
I know the game,
Yeah.
so.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments, concerns? All right.
How's gymnastics going? Did we make it to regional or state?
Mia made it to state
Nice.
pole vault, or pole vault.
Vault.
Vault. And, bars.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're excited.
Good luck. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, see you guys.
Good night, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, you
Go
too.
straight home now.
Always do.
That's all I got.
Okay. Staff recognition.
So we have one, since we last met. Anybody know Louie,
Oh, boy.
custodian Louie? Come on, you Lowell
What
graduates.
Louis Melser.
So Louie used to work at the high school years ago, and now he is at Oak Hill.
He's been at Oak Hill since like
Forever.
2003 maybe. I mean, he was there early in my years. He's
Yeah.
been there a long time.
He's famous. School then, so.
So we
See,
had
I
a,
transfer when I switched.
Aging me now too.
we had a parent who provided a shout out. Mr. Louie makes sure to always have a smile on his face. My son has been having a super hard year. Louie has made my son be seen. He does little things with my son and writes on scrap paper, quote unquote, nothing, just to make him smile as a little gag. At Christmas, he gave him a Christmas card, and inside it said, nothing, to make him smile. On Valentine's Day, he dropped my son and some other kids a Hershey kiss in front of them, and he loves his job and also knows the students. He goes above and beyond, and I am grateful that he makes life a little easier for my son. So
That's awesome.
that's our staff rec.
Louis is an outstanding man. I mean, he does his job to the tens, and he's always friendly, and as mentioned, he's great with the kids.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that inspires those around him that he works with to do those little special extras too, so.
And I saw Louis not too long at the opening of the school year for the first time in years, and it was like looking at Louis 20 years ago. Same old Louis.
He brings a turkey to school every year for the kids to
Yes.
see on
Yep.
Thanksgiving.
A living
Like,
turkey.
like a
Yes.
list.
Yeah,
And they don't get to touch it, but it's like, we
Oh,
put it
yeah,
in,
that's
like,
cool.
when he got his recognition, the whole cafeteria stood up and just chanted his name. He was so
I was
embarrassed.
gonna say, he probably hated
He
that.
hates being recognized.
That's really neat.
So he said he's gonna
But
bring
he
it
is a
back.
special employee, no question.
He's a wonderful person.
All right, board member reports?
Yeah, as a member of the NICEAG Board of Managers, we had our meeting last night. Traditional board meeting stuff, a couple outstanding things. We approved all the Neola policies and bylaws for the final reading, which is great if you're familiar with Neola. We had some alternative and residential contracts for the kids that we had to approve. And we approved the school calendar for next year, which was exciting to do. And we had a couple fundraisers we approved. But like what Mr. Anderson was talking about earlier, NICEAG is also concerned about the upcoming policies and changes to public education. And again, the current legislation is not looking favorable for public schools and special ed co-ops, especially in the special ed area where, you know, more attention is needed for the students. So those are the big things. And they were looking at ways to save money in the event that the financial walls come crashing down. So that's it.
Well, thank you for attending and the update on that. Appreciate it.
Now I know who Louis is.
Oh,
I had to look him up, I'm
yes.
like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he has not changed.
What's that?
No,
He has
yeah.
not changed, Louis.
Oh, no. Oh, no, he's the same guy, yeah.
Yeah.
You remember Louis? I think so.
Any other board updates? I wanna just double, since we have the opportunity, follow up on the legislative, stuff. I recently was reading something and obviously we're all, as homeowners and residents, would love to see a tax cut. And see our price, costs going down with everything going up. The message that I was reading is, does it need to come from the schools? Is there other ways that we can cut funding at the state level and the state's budget and not so much just taking it from the schools? And the message there was to get that message to our governor. Lots of people are sending messages to our representatives, and that's great. Right now, the governor is leading this and is telling, the representatives that if they don't find a plan that works for him, then he's gonna continue to keep them in session. And so I think that it's important for us to use our voices to let the governor know, yes, we want to see cuts and good fiscal responsibility and spending, but can we look at some other things within the state's budget that doesn't come directly out of the schools? So just kind of shifting that mindset and where that attention is focused. If anybody is interested in advocating, that would be a great avenue to send a little note to. So that was my 2 cents. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on. Curriculum, Title I EdFlex waiver, number 1, public input. Do you want to go ahead?
If I could speak to this, so we are recipients of the Title I grant, which is a federal grant that's available to Indiana schools. The allocations are based on poverty rates, and we have 3 schools that are eligible for Title I funding: Oak Hill, Three Creeks, and Lowell Intermediate Middle School. The Title I grant funds are used to help ensure that our students meet the state academic standards. And we receive about $350,000 a year in Title I funding, which we used for this year. We're using it for 3 teachers. It funds 3 teachers to help with those academic standards and 6 aides as well. There are some instructional supplies in there, and of course we have a Title I family night that supports our families and gives them some strategies and resources to help their kiddos at home as well. So the grant guidelines allow each year for you to roll over 15% of your allocation to the next school year. Typically, we're under the 15%. We never really quite spend because of staffing challenges that you have filling positions and times and all of that. This year, we exceeded the 15%. And when you exceed the 15%, you have a maximum of up to 25% that you can roll if you go through an education waiver process here where we let our public know that we're going to be rolling some funds forward. So we exceeded it by like 3 or 4%, which is $11,000. So we don't want to leave that $11,000 on the table, and so we are following the procedure to roll this forward so that we could use it in the same fashion to support our programs like that with teaching, or with our teachers and funding and everything. So we didn't use all our funds because we had some hiring challenges last year in just filling those positions and keeping them filled. We had some teachers positions that went empty, and of course those aide positions are very hard to fill all the time. So we'd like to keep that $11,000 in our grant within Tri-Creek. So we went through the waiver process, which you have to notify the public, and we sent out an email to all parents within the community on March 3rd. We posted it on our website. In those two communications, there was a link that they could provide some feedback or they could ask questions about it. And then tonight is another opportunity for the public to comment or ask questions as well. We received one question, and it was more funding based than it was, it was a great question because it was how much funding do you get in Title I, and what does that look like in the grand scope of your entire budget? So grants are very important to us because they could be considered one of the mainstays, and Title I certainly is a mainstay for many districts. Funding changes every 2 years with the legislative session, and hopefully you can count on those grant funds as well. So every dollar is very important here. So at this point, we'd like to solicit if there's any public comment now on our waiver process. Next steps after this would to be file the waiver, give them the evidence that we hold our community, and move forward with our $11,000 in this school year to spend.
Anybody interested in making public comment? No? All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I have one question from the board.
Sure.
Rolling over, does that impact negatively the funding for the following year?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It just stays within our funds, and the funding still.
So it doesn't
What
affect.
negatively affects our funding is when people don't fill out the application for free and reduced. That it weighs heavy on our grant funding. And I'll say that last year, we lost Title I funding in our Lake Prairie Elementary because their free and reduced poverty percent dipped below the average of our schools, or above, below. It went less than that. So we lost the Title I funding in Lake Prairie Elementary. That's why that one wasn't listed. It's hovering right at the mark. It's got to be, I think it's over 30.1 or 30.2% is our average. And I think they're at like 29.5 right now. So if you do the math, I think we looked at it, and maybe if we had like 8 to 10 more families qualify, which means filling out the application and just qualifying for that assistance, we might be able to get Lake Prairie Title I assistance again.
Just keep sending out
Yeah,
those notices.
Mhm.
All right. Next item on the agenda is academic interventions. So I know that we have the three of you here to talk to us today. So whoever wants to start.
We're all together.
Awesome. Even better.
While they're making their way up, I would say our elementary schools are rocking and rolling on putting interventions and supports in place for students, and really excited to see what they've got.
So John,
Yes.
What? Wait.
John,
Go that way.
are you trying to, okay.
Where do you want me?
he's just being John.
Okay.
We won't have you.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm John. John Naniga. No, he's, is it mine up there or yours, Jay? It's yours, right?
it's Jay's.
Yeah, he's gonna control that. I was just using this for a reference. John Naniga, I'm the principal at Three Creeks,
Lisa Stoll, principal at Lake Prairie.
Liz Lowell, principal at Oak Hill.
and we're here to talk to you tonight about the interventions that we're using at 3 elementary schools. Do you wanna start? Liz?
I'll do this one.
Okay.
So we're very fortunate at all 3 elementaries to have so many resources for our students. Trying to look for anything we can do. This year, all 3 of us implemented a win time, which is what I need time, And so we'll get into that a little more specific, but that was something that's changed in all three of our buildings this year. We continue, well, these two continue to have Title I services, but we are fortunate that we do have an interventionist, a teacher and a para to still provide those supports. And then, of course, our special education services that we all offer for a wide range of things.
So I'm gonna talk about the why. So we put a quote up there from our solution tree book. The fundamental purpose of the school is to ensure that all students learn at high levels. So we do pride ourselves at the elementary level in having a plan for every student. So we believe that all students can learn at high levels, and our goal is to get them there. So in order to do that, we have to know how to respond when students have learned and when they have not learned. So through our work at the PLC table, we spend a large amount of time going through student data and developing plans and systems for reteaching, remediation, and enrichment for our students. Our win time allows for every student to have a focused time on what they need during the school day. So we do use this as a tier 2 support in every classroom. For students who need more support outside of win time, we utilize our Title I room as well as small group instruction, pre-teaching opportunities, and reteaching opportunities. We have students in our Title I room who are identified as both tier 2 and tier 3 based on goals, and we look at their goals and their progress within the Title I room. This requires a lot of monitoring, a lot of discussion, a lot of communication and teamwork. And then obviously our LRE room is very important because we have many students who are identified as having a disability and needing special education services. So all of these things are within our MTSS program or multi-tiered systems of support, and we're truly trying to work to meet students where they are.
So at Three Creeks, this year we implemented Win Time, but we called it Bears Time, and that stands for Bringing Enrichment and Remediation Support. So that is, it applies to all students, looking at recent assessment data and deciding which kids got it, which kids didn't need more support, which kids are ready for a challenge. So we do that 3 days a week, as do you guys, right? 3 days a week, I think.
3 to 5.
3 to 5
Depends
days
on
a
the
week.
grade.
Yeah. So tonight we want to share some of our specific success stories from our interventions. I know we often share broad data for our schools, but you don't hear those specific success stories. So we're gonna share a couple of testimonials in our slideshow, but then we're going to also share a video where you're gonna get to hear some of our teachers talking about their success stories. So just one success story from one of my kindergarten teachers this year. One of my students began kindergarten significantly behind her peers, often feeling overwhelmed by daily assignments and brought to tears by the challenges she faced. Through targeted interventions like Bears Time and small group instruction, she received the support she needed in a structured, ability-based setting. Over time, her confidence has grown tremendously. She now approaches difficult tasks with determination and takes great pride in her achievements. No longer discouraged by challenges, she lights up with excitement when she succeeds, demonstrating the impact of intentional interventions and a supportive learning environment.
And at Oak Hill, we are the Cardinals, so we have what we call fly time, where we fly away to different places, what the kids tell me, which stands for Focused Learning for You. Couple teacher testimonials. So at the beginning of the year, my student came into first grade receiving math interventions and scored a 148 on the NWEA, 12 points below the goal. He happily goes to interventions every day, and with a lot of communication with mom, he's also receiving outside tutoring. When we took the winter NWA, he scored a 158. He's still below the benchmark, but he had a 10 points worth of growth. With other interventions during fly time and during small groups, he is growing. Another testimonial, G is a student who came into first grade struggling with reading skills in general. She had a great deal of difficulty retaining and using phonics skills, and her comprehension wasn't where it needed to be either. Through the support of her parents, Title I, fly time, and targeted small group instruction in class, she has grown 20 points on her NWEA, over a year's growth in fact. She met and went over her written goal for the end of the year and she has graduated from Title I services. She has absolutely blossomed as a reader. I am so proud of her. Through her hard work and the work of our school team, we are able to close the gap and get her on level with her reading skills. I liked both of these testimonials because it also talks about the support of the parents and including the parents in that communication, and really being a team and a community.
And for us at Lake Prairie, we have Tiger Time, targeted instruction for growth, enrichment, and remediation. One thing that we didn't really say just about all of our win times, I think it's one of the neatest things, is it is school-wide. So we involve the PE teacher, the art teacher, the music teacher. I mean, everyone gets involved. And so I think it just really kind of brings us together as a community. It's no longer, these kids belong in this class and these kids belong in this class. It's everyone's on board. All hands on deck. I taught a first grade Tiger Time yesterday. So it's exciting to see something that everyone in the building is committed to. So my two quotes, this first one is from a kindergarten teacher. I had so many to choose from, but the two I chose, this one I thought was really interesting because kindergarten is such a unique group. You've got kids who come in who don't know the letters in their name, and you have kids who are readers. And so Tiger Time has really helped us group those kids during that time. And for I think the first probably good 2 months of school, kindergarten remediation focused strictly on letter ID. So that was very exciting, and you can see in the second paragraph of this one, she talks about how at the beginning of the year, she was getting 0 or 2s out of 12 on the phonics assessments through our curriculum, and now she's consistently scoring a 10 or a higher. Between the small group instruction in the class, one-on-one support, time and Tiger Time, as well as interventions, you know, this student is a different kid, which is so exciting to see. And then my other favorite one, and this is a student I will talk about to anyone who will listen, but he was a 4th grader. He's been in our building since pre-K because he did some speech services before he ever started with us. He is receives special education services, well known throughout our building. He's just a great kid, hardest worker. Struggled. And for the first time on the math I learned checkpoint in December, he passed. And it was just like, I mean, I immediately ran to his teacher, who immediately ran to last year's teacher, and it just like went throughout the building. So to see him have success on something like that through very strategic planning of their Tiger Time and using that iLearn blueprint and the curriculum to really target that. You know, on the math, on the language arts, which is not a strength of his, and he's still not where he needs to be, but he went from the 6th percentile to the 25th percentile, going up 22 points. He was in that 99th percentile of conditional growth, which is so exciting to see from those kids, because oftentimes you're just like, oh, they're still in the, they're only in the 25th percentile. But to see that kind of growth and just to see everyone rally around him, including his parents, who've been wonderful.
So lastly, we have a video of some testimonials from our teachers telling their stories of some of our students. We hope this touches your hearts. Touches mine.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yep. The one that says final.
I had a student who was so excited to be at school and loved everything about school. But she really struggled with knowing the letters in her name and even writing her name.
When my student first arrived at our school, he was very shy and hesitant to speak up in class. It was clear that he not only struggled with some of the math, but was using basic math knowledge.
She started the year with low confidence, difficulty with phonics skills, and difficulty with some letter names.
The student really struggles in a large class setting. It was hard for her to focus when there was so many things going on around her. She was easily getting lost in the shuffle.
A student who struggles academically in reading and tries to rush through things to avoid having his peers notice that he's struggling.
She is a student who is struggling academically.
Prior to coming to Three Creeks, he was on a half-day schedule. He refused to work. He would become quite aggressive with staff and peers. He just didn't have the structure he needed. We then spent our first few ELA rotations of Tiger Time working with our remediation group on letter identification and letter sounds. In addition to that, she was pulled daily one-on-one with Mrs. Hudson and myself to go over letters and sounds. Now in the RISE program, which stands for Reaching Independence Through a Structured Environment, he is able to attend lunch and recess without adult support. He attends specials and a 30-minute general education time for word work with minimal adult support.
He does receive title services, so I spoke with Donna Polich, a wonderful title assistant who truly loves the students as well. And she allowed Scott to sit with her and she had him test one-on-one.
Our school offered interventions with Mrs. Noason, and my student became part of several small groups, including Tiger Time, that were designed to fill in the gaps in his learning.
She was put into interventions in September for both reading and for math.
She is in title services. She also, of course, participates in Bears Time, and she works with my aide and myself one-on-one as often as possible.
I feel we have many targeted interventions at Lake Prairie that help all of our students, from those who are having difficulty with certain skills to those who need enrichment.
Teaching small groups of students during fly time, I think, is ultimately proving to be very beneficial. All the teachers have a shared spreadsheet, so I'm able to see how the students I work with are progressing.
And I can honestly say now that she's one of my strongest students in letter sounds and writing CVC, CCVC, and CVCC words.
She is more confident in her writing. Her ability to anchor her answers to text and fluency have improved as well. Her math skills, including her ability to attack a story problem and determine the multiple steps to solve it, have improved as well.
Currently, he is more confident, but also much stronger in math.
This improvement has not only been shown in Tiger Time, but the student has began to participate more in class with the background from the skills that are being reinforced. She also has learned to take her time, speak up in class, and join the group on the floor for more practice when needed.
Her growth in reading is just off the charts. She is now out of interventions. She went from a 164 to a 187 RIT score, from the 79th to the 96th percentile. She is now reading with confidence and performing well on her assessments.
After reading every single word out loud in a quieter setting, Scott scored 30 points higher.
We saw when she took NWEA in January some amazing growth. She went up to the 71st percentile in reading and the 67th percentile in math.
In late August, he was able to read at the late kindergarten level. Now in December, he was able to read at the mid-first grade level.
She grew just on NWEA. She went up 17 points in math from fall to winter. Reading, she went up 10 points from fall to winter.
I like Tiger Time because we can do fun activities and hang out with our friends in different classes. My favorite thing in Tiger Time is working on clocks and money. I like because the gym teacher reads to us in the Bill's time room. And I like Tiger Time because everybody in that room is at my level, not somebody else's. She could teach the class. I like about Bears Time because you can learn different things from different teachers. Bears Time, I get.
It's okay, just keep going. I'll edit it.
Teachers told me on my work.
It was too cute to edit out.
One thing that I really appreciate, when Liz was here in the fall, she said kids are more than just a test score. And what I appreciated about that presentation was the excitement. It wasn't about the score, it was about kids truly succeeding. And that's what really stood out to me.
I just like hearing all the details of all the efforts that everybody's putting in to get those struggling kids where they need to be. And I commend you and all the other teachers for doing what's above and beyond for all of the kids.
I think it's interesting too, and the one girl mentioned it, you know, even for those higher kids who it's definitely a challenge sometimes to, you know, you're so worried about these kids that can't read. And so, you know, for her, she's a very high student. So for her to say, I get to have everyone in the class who's at my level, and they can really try and do some of those more challenging skills and go more in depth to things that are hard to do during the day.
This early intervention certainly helps them succeed later on in school. So getting them early, they're the most impressive at that time, and then building them up so that they're more successful as they progress up the ranks.
Yeah, those testimonials were really great. And I, like, as you guys were speaking and coming up, I had some notes I wrote. The first one was enrichment, like you just touched on. So for my son, when he was in elementary school, that was always my, like, well, he was looking for more. And we didn't have this stuff going on quite yet. And I know he would have been exactly like that little girl, like, I am in a class right now with everybody on my level and we get to do all these things. So it's there because while we're trying to, you know, bring some of the lower students up, even I struggled with that when I was teaching. Like, the kids that are already there sitting there twiddling their thumbs, you know, or get stuck in tutoring other kids. So I love that to see that that's also happening. Something else I noticed was you all worked in your own school pride into what your win time is called. And so while it's a different title, all of our schools are still doing the same thing. And that unity that I see forming now, and you could see it when you guys came up and presented together as a district leadership team, is really something we've focused on and hope to see, and you guys are rocking it. So awesome job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would love to give a shout out really quick to my second and third grade teams because their iRead scores came back and they're the highest they've been in a couple years. With second grade was 63% of our second graders passed, which is last year was around 50%. So, and they are doing fly time and working as a team like better than I've ever seen them do. So it's working. It's making a difference. And we're seeing it with the kids.
That is awesome. And you guys also did the heavy lifting too in getting that whole school approach with bringing in all of the teachers. And the kids love it. You could hear they love it. That they get to have reading time with their PE teacher. So I know that took some, you know, extra work and pushing on your part in leadership. So well done. Well done.
When will we receive those iRead? Before spring break.
Soon. We're
Yes.
getting it all ready.
Yeah.
You can probably just talk to your kid's principal if you really want to know.
You're saying, right?
Make sure you.
I was like, I don't know which one, but it's not me.
Yeah.
Okay, regular business consent items, we'll do these together. Approve meeting minutes from Thursday, February 13th, 2025, and approve payroll and claims. Do I have a motion to approve the two?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Personnel report. Approve the personnel report dated Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, business operations. We have a presentation from our Chartwell's School Dining Team. If you guys would like to come on up.
Did you bring snacks?
I think I saw you a year ago. I'm Amy Kerrigan. I'm your area director or district manager. Hopefully we have a video to show you.
I'm hungry.
amazing.
We didn't give them anything.
Shaking the cupcake. Seen in the shadow.
One time at the high school, the lunch lady said was so nice. She said, one more extra for me. So yeah.
Yeah, you missed Jude.
What do you got on your tray today?
I have a quesadilla with Mexican
And milk. What do you think of that quesadilla? It's good? Good. Thank you.
So hopefully, we were trying to just showcase to you what the students experience through those programs that we offer, the nutrition education. Each of those were different programs that we've offered to the students. We did not collaborate with your intervention teams to get the feedback from the kids, but I'm glad we both had the same idea. Hopefully, in your package, you received this overview that we provided to you. Not to be depressing, but kind of just to share with you the trend or the trajectory as the costs continue to increase. So as we start to talk about next year and future years, you will be looking to go out to bid next year, but want to give you kind of an overview. Your costs continue to increase. How do you mitigate that, or can you mitigate that? So we have put a recommendation in here. Obviously, that's for you to review, that the cost or the price of your meals has not increased since 2019. I think that's to be commended, but it's also something to look at to some ways to increase your revenue. So maybe you want to speak to some of
Yeah, as Amy said, costs from the district have not increased the public since 2019. We also went in, as you see on here, it says 13 districts evaluated. We looked at the 13 most local districts surrounding us. Do not have the.
Oh, you didn't get it?
I'll make sure it gets in there. I'm looking for it now to add it.
Sorry,
Give
I
it to
apologize.
you,
As
thought it was
long
in.
as you will forgive.
You have to promise not to look at the spelling mistake. We had the
typo.
online version that's
I wouldn't catch
That's
them
okay, we
anyways.
might not find it.
I got here today and I was like, oh my gosh, that's right there. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, you got
if you'd like to show that, that would be.
okay, can't we also post?
Yeah, you can put it up. Yeah, please. Thank you.
So down there, 13 districts evaluated. What we did is we did an analysis of the 13 most local districts surrounding us and then a further 24 beyond that, just to kind of get us idea for the trend in the area and in the surrounding state on the whole. And you look at that, we've put on here our median price versus Tri Creek's median price for lunches and for breakfasts. The median of that range of 13 schools is $1.70 to our $1.63. The
We
median.
changed the math, so your sheet's gonna be a little different, so it's 7 cents, not the 13 you see there.
And then the median on the lunch in the area, the median price $2.78 compared to the $2.17 for us. So we are below that median level by 61 cents is the major one for our lunch prices. Breakfast, we're not too far off. But, you know, coinciding with that, we have seen just today, just for the sake of conversation, since 2019 at that time, we've increased participation amongst those students, and the decrease in populations has been about 40 students. So it's a pretty equal number in terms of, you know, student body and what their petition may be. However, those participation percentages for lunch have increased 10 to 15%, you know, depending. So lunch is about, you know, 10%, breakfast is equal. So students are enjoying what we're doing. We just simply have had funds, you know, or costs increase, and what's outlined on the sheet there, if you show on page 2, if you flip the next page there on the screen, that will come out. But the average increase since 2019 for food costs has been 40%, or we could average that out to 10% a year. That changed a little bit during the COVID years. There was some more than it, but essentially we can say 10% a year it has gone up. Okay, now when we look at other expenses to go with that, our buildings are getting older, specifically our elementary kitchens are starting to have some equipment issues. There isn't a single time when a repair company comes in, they don't tell me this is probably the last time we're gonna be able to fix this refrigerator. We're getting to the point now where they just don't make that kind of Freon anymore, that type of stuff, you know. We're getting to that point with some of the equipment. We haven't had a lot of big breaks yet, but it's coming. We wanna plan for the future and make sure that our food service fund is there for us when we need it. And when we look at that food service fund, yeah, our current fund balance, 22 to 23, we dropped 18%, 23 to 24, 21%. That trend is not far off that for this year. We're still in the year, obviously, but we are trending along the same, and it's not because of a drop in any other expenditures. It's simply because of the increases in costs for what we do.
I think the point here is you have a healthy fund balance.
Yes, we do.
You've always prided yourself to have that. However, it's our opinion that it's gonna quickly start diminishing as costs continue to increase. So as good stewards financially to you, we're just saying something to consider. Could that increase in the prices back to the public help mitigate any issues you might see from the food cost and from the equipment repairs that we need to replace, really?
We are monitoring that on a monthly basis. The state changed the standard. It used to be 3 months of expenditures that you should have in your account, and anything else above that would be excessive. Now they're looking at 6 months reserves is what they're asking for. So on a monthly basis, we meet as a team, review our balances, sign off on them, and start with a plan. So we've been working on a plan of checking our pricing against others in our school meals, and we, again, haven't had an increase in many, many years here.
I think traditionally you had done 5 cents a year, or there were a couple of years where you did 10 cents, but it was every 2 years. we're just a little bit behind that 8 ball. So looking at the local districts, we are significantly behind in our meal prices. However, with the food service fund being where it is, just planning for the future of those equipment needs, a simple increase, 25% increase gets us $63,000 roughly a year increase. That is going to cover our raises for the staff that exist right now. That's a little bit more than that, so we could pay for that in a broken oven with that increase right now. Looking at the surrounding schools, we're significantly behind that. We understand that we don't want to hit the public with that hard of a hit, but it is something to think about and plan for the future. That's going to come.
We'll continue to monitor that. We'll continue to look at it. We'll bring a recommendation probably in May or June for the following school year, if we feel it's necessary.
Any questions for us? School lunch is not what it used to be, and I'm very happy to see that. It definitely saves me having to pack lunches and things because the kids are happy to come to school and eat what's provided to them and their options.
Do you look at the middle school, how many options they got?
They have in high school as well.
Oh,
It's
I know, I was
great.
looking at them, I was showing people, we were talking about it, so some of the guys that work with me all have gone to Lowell or whatever. They were talking about the options, we had, back in the day or whatever, and so I pulled up the menu and they were blown away by it.
Get tacos one day, taco burgers the next day.
Oh, they have like a whole taco bar, I'm like, holy crap.
Is that why you're hanging around the school, Andy, at lunchtime?
I was just remembering my lunch days, you'd get leftovers the next day, some
It's
variation.
reconfigured.
Fiesta burgers or something.
That reminds me with the high school, I do have a question. With more of the awareness becoming around gluten-free and while it may not be an allergy, it could be a preference. Are you seeing anything with that within the upper grades?
I mean, day to day, you'll have a comment here and there, but officially where there is a diet on record, not so much. Or it's something, we don't see a huge increase in that, but we always will do our best to accommodate those when they come up, and we have options available for that.
So I know for us specifically, our high schooler, especially during his sports seasons, was focusing on a gluten-free, high-protein option. And because it helps with inflammation, I just read a study today that ADHD, there is a study that shows that specifically removing gluten and certain sugars and things like that help reduce inflammation, that helps reduce some of the impulses from ADHD. So being in school and having, that need to be addressed, just maybe we could start to think about some more opportunities for gluten-free for the kids that has a higher protein, content to it.
A couple of things that we are revamping within our own programs is sports nutrition. You may have heard of it, but it is really focusing on your athletes and trying to give them alternative options throughout the day to fuel them for after school, whether it's lifting or sports performance, etc. So hopefully by this summer we'll have something to roll out. Get with your athletic director, make sure all your sports teams are aware of that. But in that as well is trying to focus on different types of diets, because that's a feedback we're getting from the students is, I want more protein, or how do I stay under a certain number of calories, or how do I follow a Mediterranean diet? And so we're working now to try to encapsulate all of that.
Some of that groundwork has been laid in Tri-Creek already, just simply working the sport teams to get meals when they need them during away games and such. We've laid that groundwork there and we'll move towards them.
Awesome. Yeah, I kept telling my son, just get a salad. Is there a salad bar with maybe some grilled chicken or something as an option? And so that's awesome to hear, and I look forward to seeing that roll out. Great. Anybody?
I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Julie Boyer, who's here as well. She is the district's food service director, so we're blessed with two food service directors, Joe and Julie Boyer she's our employee. So she oversees the program on our behalf, and then of course we have Chef Nate too, who's in the kitchens.
I remember Julie.
Yeah.
Nice people, delicious.
Speaking of meals too, I'm sure that athletics has maybe started to talk to you about team meals in the North Star. And
yeah, that's part of what I was referring to.
Starting to roll that out, great.
There you go.
Yes, awesome. Well, we are fortunate to have you guys here and providing such good meals. Thank you.
Thank you.
think we're gonna need some samples.
I tried, they wouldn't budge.
All right, Tri Creek School Corporation Food Service Management Company renewal with Chartwell's School Dining for the 2025-26 school year. So we need to move to approve the renewal. Is there any update on that?
This is renewal number 4, the final renewal under this contract, so the following year will be a bid year for us. And this is just following the CPI, the Consumer Price Index increases, that's allowable by the contract, which is 3.6%. That takes the management fee from $11,573.83 to $11,990.48. The administrative fee goes from just under 6 cents to just over 6 cents per meal. And then the current equivalent meal factor will remain at the $3.81 that's in the contract.
So what is the, I don't even know, my kids get lunch, but what is the price of like the school meals? Oh, $2.17.
$2.17.
So how does that factor, how does that work with the 381 then? For the,
Money or something.
the current equivalent meal factor will remain at 381, but the kids are paying 270.
381 is the actual cost that's allowable by the state for the meal, correct? 381?
We take in a total sales number and to equate that into a meal, which is how we are assessed, I guess is the best way to say it. They take the total dollar, take it in, divided by that meal equivalent, the 381, to get a meal. So for every 381 sold, it equals 1 meal.
Okay.
You're
Did you
talking
get
in
that?
addition to a la carte sales.
Oh, yeah,
Meals
sorry.
is- The meals are a meal.
So let's say a child decides they wanna buy a second hamburger.
Okay.
We can't just say that counts as one meal because it's not allowable by the state. However, that conversion factor allows us to do the math appropriately.
So got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the food service management company renewal with Chartwell School Dining for the 25-26 school year?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, number 3, electoral districts. We need to approve board resolution to amend the governing plan to redistrict and realign the precincts of the 3 school board electoral seats per Indiana code. Do you wanna talk about it?
Either one.
So current Indiana code says that we need to balance our districts and make sure that the population in all 3 of our electoral districts is as close to equal as we can get. They were quite off, mostly between Cedar Creek and Eagle Creek. So we did some work within the precincts and were able to get them nearly to a perfect balance and have to present this now to the state for approval. And we will be switching from calling us by our townships to district, since things are now gonna be pulled a little bit out of the, certain townships are not gonna match up with
Can we
that
name them?
seat. So they're gonna be District 1, District 2, District 3, which is what,
Who picked those names?
that's what the state kind of, the rest of the schools around us do, so that's what we stole it from.
So West Creek will be 1,
Yes,
and then Cedar will be 2.
2,
And then
3. And we were able to get a really good balance.
It's always good to be number 1.
Should always go east to west, but whatever, whatever.
It could be Mitch District 1.
Yeah, there we go.
You read left to right.
Yeah, not Kyle.
No. I don't read, I listen.
Just to remind everybody, forgot. So the process, the law says we have to do this, so that's the first thing. Second, the board passes the resolution tonight, it then goes to the newspaper to advertise that. Then it gets filed with the Lake County Board of Elections, there's a waiting period of 120 days. If anybody can get it more perfect than what it is, then you'll have to hear that. And but if there is no opposition, then it goes to the State Board of Education for approval. So we're looking at a process that will take us probably to September or October.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, I don't know, we didn't make a motion for this yet. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution to amend the governing plan and redistrict and realign our precincts, our districts?
I'll make a motion.
Motion,
I'll second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. State Board of Accounts audit from 2022 to 24.
Yeah, so I wanted to report back on our State Board of Accounts audit that we had. It began in October of 2024 and went on for what felt like forever, and we had our exit on January 4th. This is the second time we've had a virtual audit. Rather than having auditors in-house, we had to scan, we had to produce all our stuff through a system and send it off to them. It was done by Crow Associates, accounting firm, and it was, they're not State Board of Accounts auditors, they're outside auditors. So sometimes we were speaking a little different language. They didn't understand schools, didn't understand debt service and what common school loans were. They never heard of those. So it was an interesting process. I always learn something with these, and I'm one of those probably crazy business managers that just really looks forward to an audit because you get to learn from it each time. And the team learns too. So it's a great area of growth for us to actually learn this stuff. So this audit in particular, it was probably the most challenging audit I've been through, just from 3 factors. This one included all of our federal ESSER funds, all that federal money that we got during the pandemic that had all those rules and regulations, and we were not audited on this on our last audit cycle. So this was the first time that we received any of those audits, and so we had a lot of questions for the ESSER funds. The other thing that happened during this audit, which the period was from July of 2022 to June 30th, 2024, it's a 2-year audit, we had a financial conversion there. We switched financial software in November of 2022. So we had to work in 2 financial systems, an old one that we had to produce records and a new one. And one was a cash, our new system's a cash accounting system, the old one was accrual. So it was a different, whole different audit than ever we've had before because of that. And then the last thing that made this challenging, the office move. So we moved from in March of 24, we had to get out of our central office over at the middle school into temporary spaces. And we were in temporary, so all our records were in different spots at that time. We had to move that kind of stuff and purge some of that. And then we moved again in August to here. And, just finding everything when you need it, because, I'm a person that needs to have their stuff right there. And files were not where they should be. But we were able to do all of it, to get everything and scan it all. So we had 2 findings. Two reportable findings. One that I will say is on Tri-Creek, on my team, and the other one's relatable to NYSEC. So the first finding that we had was just that we had an overstatement on a report, which is called the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. So this is all of our grants. We overstated one fund in particular, a major fund, and it was a FEMA fund because we had a claim going with FEMA. Over $756,000 that we put on this report because we were working it through the process. It was outstanding. During the audit process, we got the denial of the FEMA funds, and so we had to pay for it out of rainy day fund. We did that back in 22, but when we reported it, during this period, it was reported as FEMA money. So that's the major portion of that finding there. So it was really just, we needed FEMA to work a little quicker for us so that we didn't have to put that on the report. The second one is on NYSEC, and it's for their procurement process. NYSEC had a finding, and all schools in NYSEC will have this finding because we're all part of that cooperative for our special ed services. So this is how they procured services. I believe it was in speech services. They have 3 vendors that they use, and they're 3 vendors that work really well with our schools, work really well with our cooperative, and they didn't follow the proper bidding procedures because it was over $150,000. It was like something like $1.4 million. So they should have done like a sealed bid process. but they considered this a single source type vendor because this vendor provides the service that we really want. So it wasn't something that they felt they could go to bid. What they should have done is taken it to the board to have their board approve this as a single source, and then they wouldn't have had this finding. So it's an easy fix, but it shows up as a finding on ours. So we had 2 findings, and I'm happy with those. One, I'll own one, like I said, so on our team. Our last 3 audits, we've only had 2 findings. This one, I'll consider it 1. I will say when I started here, we had 10 findings a year at least. I went around and looked at because another little known fact of me, I like to read audits, so I will read other schools' audits when they're released. And I will see that other schools are faring in the ways of having double digits in findings. So I'm really happy with the results of this, given the challenges that we have. My team is incredible. Thank you guys for blessing me with them. Kelly Mikesel, Olivia Pierman, Katie Sherman, Anne Marie Moen, and of course Deanne Serrano all helped me with the audit throughout here. They're wonderful team members on this, and they're doing a great job.
I think it's important too that the findings weren't, we found money that you have mismanaged, that you have misappropriated, that is missing, that was spent wrong. It was that it was labeled differently, and it was one in a course of 2 years, and that was during the FEMA and COVID, all of that. So we had the funds, we covered that, even though we had hoped FEMA would, but we just didn't code it that way.
Right.
So, in the whole scheme of things, you're doing a fantastic job, and we're
It's my team.
lucky to have you.
My team.
And I think you like audits because overachievers like reassurance of the good job they're doing, so you get that.
Each time, like I said, I learn something else, and we get the chance to say, do we really need to do this? And we can tweak our process. Sometimes it's redundant, that we do it here, we do it there, and we fill out this form. Each time I take that opportunity to, learn and see if we can change something to make it more efficient.
There is a lot of redundancy in
Yes.
accounting
Yeah.
anyways, as by
Plus all the
trade.
other variables, the office and the
Oh
files.
my gosh, that was, yes.
Yeah, did you have to go in the attic for any of them?
Oh, yeah. They call it the scary place.
I bet.
I have the keys to go to the scary place.
I bet you were really happy that Andy made you put them up there.
It's fine, that's fine.
Saved
It's
us
not
lots of
in our-
money.
Yes.
She was getting you every time. All right, thank you for the update on that. Okay. All right, so we need to retroactively approve the Lowell High School Boys State Wrestling Finals Tournament overnight athletic trip. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Same thing for Boys Swim State Finals Tournament overnight athletic trip. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Right, we have a proposal for the Lowell High School Sunshine Club. Can I have a motion to entertain the approval of this?
I'll
I'll
make a
make a
motion. Go ahead.
Got a motion? Second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion about this?
No, I just think it's a great opportunity for kids to get out there and do great things for our school and for our community.
I agree. I want to recognize the student who brought this to proposal, and it is Brooke Bretzinger. She completed all the paperwork, got lots of signatures from other students, and went through, jumped through hoops to try to make something happen that's going to be a positive voice within our schools, and I really appreciate her ambition with that. So,
It's fantastic.
yes.
And Ryan Skinner has stepped
Yes.
to the table to sponsor.
Sponsor it.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, very good.
Stepped up.
All right, all in favor of approving the proposal for the Sunshine Club? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, technology camera bids. Jay?
So, this recommendation and item comes to you with a process that started over a year ago as we started to look at our needs to replace a 10-plus-year-old camera system that is starting to fail. Actually, this was some funding that Dr. Cleefish and I worked on together many years ago.
Wayback Machine.
Yes, and so It's been a great system for us, but we saw that need coming. So we started down that process by taking a look at what our partners at Lake County PD were utilizing for their real-time crime center and talking to some other schools in our area. And what we found is that many of them are utilizing a system from Motorola, Avigilon. We started talking with them and looking at their system, and we currently have 5 cameras installed at Lake Prairie for our new construction as we were trying to get a feel for that system. As part of that process, as you'll recall, we also wrote the COPS SVPP safety grant that we received last year, and that was for approximately $500,000. And we wrote that based on budgeting for replacements at all of our buildings at the time what we were budgeting approximately $800,000 for that full replacement. After we received that grant, and as we were going through that process, we started to run into some issues with the quality of those cameras at Lake Prairie. We found some things that we were told, some features that they had that we did not see, and some things that were lacking actually from our current system. So as a part of that process, we decided to start taking a look at some other systems, specifically those that are based on cloud-based systems. So meaning the equipment isn't on site, it is now something that's up in the cloud and can be accessed anywhere. Previously, when we looked at those, the pricing on those was way too high to consider. We did not feel like that was something that we would be able to utilize. When we started looking at that, it opened up some additional options of some vendors that we could consider, including one called Verkada, which is in use in many other schools in the state, but they don't have much of a presence here in our area currently. We started doing demos, taking a look at the Verkada system as well as a cloud system from Motorola. We brought in some test cameras, reviewed some features with our safety staff and with my team, kind of really put those through their paces. And based off of that, we felt like both systems had definitely some positives that we wanted to take a look at. And we decided to do an open bid process for both Avigilon Alta Cloud and Verkada to try to encourage competitive pricing between both vendors. As a part of that process, we received 6 total bids, 3 for each of those 2 vendors. That item was brought to the board at our last meeting, and we did hold off on that. The low bid for Avigilon was from Tri Electronics. The low bid for Verkada was from Lucidia IT from Valparaiso. As we reviewed those bids, we found that there was less than a $2,000 difference in between those in equipment, and approximately about $4,000 for licensing for 10 years, so extremely competitive. But what we were surprised to find was that the total pricing for those projects was half of that original amount that we had budgeted. So our plan to look at competitive pricing was successful. We did pull this from our last meeting based off of that finding because we knew that there was a possibility that we might have some more funding available to us through our grant. We wanted to utilize that to review some options for a complementary access door control system that is also 10 years old and is from the time when Dr. Kleefisch was here. So the recommendation that I have in front of you is the pricing for both systems. We believe that both systems would be improvements on what we currently have. However, based off of the feedback from members of our safety team who have reviewed both systems, we feel that Verkada gives us the best option for future growth and for giving our team the tools to keep students and staff safe. So the recommendation that I would give to you is to approve the bid from Lucidia IT on behalf of Verkada.
So you have worked overtime to get the grant that we received, that awesome grant that we got, and then continued to do that same level of work in getting this competitive pricing and really squeezing out the best deal that we could get for the schools. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for going above and beyond and giving us the best we can get. This is exciting.
Jay has always done that. He's a star.
I learned from the best, truly. This man taught me everything I know about this process, so.
Look at all this back patting we're doing tonight.
We're going out after this,
Yeah,
right? No.
All right, so is there any questions or discussion before we move to approve this bid?
Sounds like he did a very thorough job and got it right where we needed it to be.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so can I have a motion to approve the bid for Lucidia representing Verkada Systems?
I'll make a motion to approve the Lucidia contract or quote.
And motion
I'll
and
second.
second. All right, and all in favor of approving Lucidia for the contract for our safety and security? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, this changed a little bit, so let me read it from here. Authorization to solicit bids for district-wide access control.
So again, as part of that process, as we started looking at the potential for a complementary system that would be under the same roof as our cameras. Now that you've made the recommendation approved the recommendation for Verkada, we are asking permission to go out to a open bid process for Verkada's door access control system. That would be something we would like to bring to you at the next meeting.
And that's with all the extra funds we have now from the money you saved.
Yes,
We get to have the bells and whistles added on.
yes.
Awesome. Okay. Can I have a motion to consider the replacement bids?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of authorizing soliciting bids for the replacement of our district access control system?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. All right. Fiscal year 2025 district E-rate networking service projects.
So this is an item that I come to you yearly with. This is funding that comes from the FCC. If you take a look on your phone bill, you'll usually see a line item on there for a universal service fee of usually about $1 or so. All that money goes into a fund that is provided to schools and libraries to be able to fund some essential services. We get that in a 5-year period that they give us based off of however many students we have. They allocate so much money. We are in the last of our 5-year run. There's approximately $14,000 left in that fund for us. So we've utilized that money very well over the years. The proposal I have in front of you is for one of our district firewalls, the services for that. And it worked out so that we were able to utilize all of that remaining funding. So we do receive those services at about 60% off. The government pays that 60%, we pay 40%. So it's a great deal for us to be able to utilize.
Great. Can I have a motion to approve the bid for people-driven technologies for district E-rate networking services?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. All right, authorize the administration to apply for a common school fund loan for technology from the Indiana Department of Education.
This is another item that we do come to you pretty much yearly on at this point. This is for funding that is allowed to schools for a low-cost 1% loan to be able to purchase equipment. We are asking for that permission to be able to utilize this funding for replacement iPads for students. This would impact students in grades 2, 5, and 9. And then we're also hoping to be able, based off of pricing, to look at replacing our current 10th grade students who have kind of our first generation of iPads. That we found that there's some definite needs at those levels to be able to purchase some different iPads that will ultimately end up back down at our elementaries. We're gonna get that full amount out of those. So this would allow us to make that, go ahead and do that process. And we would find out at a upcoming state board meeting.
All right, can I have a motion to authorize the application for a common school fund loan?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You did some heavy lifting tonight. Okay, we're getting to the end. Consent items are all donations. I'll read them all together. So here we go. We are going to need a motion to approve the following. $1,150 donation from the Lowell Lions Club to help fund the Lowell High School Pride Banquet and Student Dinners, which we had earlier. $100 donation from Ronald and Denise Vance of Cedar Lake to help fund the Paul Hoffman Scholarship. Donation of hats, scarves, mittens from the Lowell Chamber of Commerce for student needs. $200 donation from Eric and Julie Compton of Munster, Indiana to help fund the Lowell High School Science Olympiad ECA. Donation of 200 16-ounce water bottles valued at $40 from Michelle Whitebrook of Lowell for the 5-gallon safety buckets. Donation of 3 copies of the book Lafayette, America's Young Hero, and Guest by Bruce E. Maude, value $44.97, from the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution for the 3 elementary school libraries. $125 donation from the GFWC Lowell Women's Club for Feed Them Forward Fund. $100 donation from Old Dog Coffee House in Lowell for any needs of Lowell Middle School Student Council. $1,488.36 from Bethel Church of Ministries, Harvest Market Ministry in Crown Point for the Feed Them Forward Fund. $67.98 donation from the Lake Prairie School PTO to help fund field day activities. Oh boy, those get crazy. $593.76 donation for Lake Prairie Elementary School PTO to help fund the 2nd grade study trip. Can I have a motion to approve the donations?
I'll make a motion to approve the 11 donations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Public comment not related to agenda items. Spring break is scheduled for Monday, March 24th through Friday, March 28th, 2025. The next meeting of the school board is scheduled for Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Anything else from the board?
On a positive, our Human Resource Director, Anne Marie Moen, was announced as the IASBO District Region 1 School Support Personnel of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's fun.
Congratulations to Anne Marie. That's great. Awesome. All
So she
right.
get free lunch now?
Meeting adjourned.